Hello everyone, it's Amy, and welcome back for the second week of March, my page in the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery challenge that's going on. So the first week was, I'm going to set this aside, we did the background, and the background was vintage fabrics, and so I had this a piece of an old quilt here that I put on, and I went through and I just did the tiny straight stitching up the center, and then on the sides I went 3 lines of stitching across the sides, and then on the bottom I stitched the whole thing except where the flower's at. I just stitched up to the flower and then continued on the other side, so that stitched the whole thing down. And so my background is done. And then our embellishment for this month was beautiful butterfly or bright butterfly. So I've been trying to decide, how do I want to do the butterfly? Now I pulled out a bunch of fabrics, and these are all just scrap fabrics from my mom's old quilts. And I thought about doing the butterfly with different color fabrics. But because of the quilt and all of the different colors in the quilt, I really don't think that adding fabric on top of that quilt, as I looked at it, to me, it would be too busy and kind of distractive. So I've decided I'm not going to do the butterfly with different fabrics for the wings. I am going to put this butterfly on there, and then I'll be done. So, no. I was looking to see if this was about the right size, but it's too big. I am going to draw a butterfly, and then I am going to cut, I've got some unbleached muslin, and so I am going to cut my butterfly wings out of this muslin and put them on here. I think I have decided that my butterfly is going to go in this top section and leave this bottom section as it is. If I decide I want to put something down here, I may, but I think I might just leave that like it is. So, but I'm going to cut out 4 wings, put them on there, and then I'm going to stitch those wings. I'm going to use different stitches to, I may draw a pattern out first of what, like maybe the design of stitching that I want to do, so that I don't get started and think, oh, I would have liked to have done this, or that doesn't seem to fit there. So the way that I'm going to do my butterfly wings is I am going to say, okay, this is as wide as our, right here is how wide my block is. So I know that my wings can't be any wider than that. And I am just going to, I don't have a cutter here, so this is not going to be straight, but it doesn't need to be. We're cutting wings out of it, so not a big deal. Alrighty, will that fit on there? Yes, it will. So then I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to cut my wings out. I'm going to sketch them first, but I'm going to cut this in half. And I'll be able to use the extra half to cut out the second set of wings. And I am just going to just kind of, to me, I can do a butterfly better if I just try and sketch the wings. So I'm just going to say, hopefully, can you see that? Yeah, I think so. So I'm just going to say this is going to be my top wing. And so I'm just going to come out like this. And then I'm going to kind of put a little bit of a swoop in the edge of it. And then I'm going to say that at the bottom, I'm going to kind of start right in this area. And I don't want it to be too rounded. Just kind of out there a little flat. So I've got that. And then for the bottom wing, I'm going to kind of go right underneath the top wing so that I know that they kind of, in this area right here, they will fit up next to each other. And then at that point, I can kind of start dropping down and decide. And I'm going to come right up here because I'm going to have to cut my fabric, so I might as well just start drawing in that area. I'm just going to come up here and go on a bit of an angle. And I kind of like the ones that have like a little, like a swallowtail butterfly, kind of has that little bit on the bottom. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to go, but it's my butterfly, so it doesn't matter if it's a perfect butterfly. And then I can say, okay, if I put half of it there, and that's taking up a lot of my card, and put the other half here, that looks like that's going to work pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And I did copy this on cardstock. But if you don't have any cardstock, you can just do it on paper. And, you know, if you want something harder to trace around, you can cut it out of a piece of paper and then trace it onto a piece of junk mail. Or use a marker or a pen that is heavy enough to see on top of whatever's on your junk mail. I'll make this just a little wider down here. You know, so you can just write right on the junk mail, because a lot of your junk mail comes in cardstock form. So you can just use that. It's just a pattern, so, you know, it's not anything you're going to have to use to, you know, embellish. But even if you wanted to, you could use that cardstock and then just cover it or paint it. So there we go. So these are going to be my two wings. One here and one here. Okay. And then I'm not the type of person, and butterflies don't have to be symmetrical. They probably are not really in the wild, but when I look at them, I like to see them symmetrical, and I can't draw that way. So I'm now going to take these two wings and I'm going to flip them over and trace them on here so that, whoops, so that my wings are basically symmetrical, but the opposite direction. That kind of moved, but it's going to be close enough. You know, the opposite direction, so that I can put them together and make a butterfly. And what I'm going to do for the body, I haven't decided yet. I don't know if I might maybe do some bullion stitching, or I just really have not decided. I just don't know. That one goes that way, and that one goes that way. And then we'll cut this one out just to make sure before I start doing any more. Before I cut out my muslin, I want to make sure that it fits the way I want it to fit on my background. You know, is it too small? Is it too big? Because I think I'm just going to pin my muslin right to the backing and then start stitching on top of it. And they don't have to be exactly the same as each side, but these are going to be very close to each side. You know, very close to symmetrical. So that's totally fine, because, you know, I'm sure that butterflies are not perfect, just like none of us are perfect. And, but I want them to be close. And if I tried to draw it both sides just individually, they wouldn't be anything like each other. All right, so there we go. So if I'm going to go like that, and then I'm going to go like that. And there, let's see, I might want to put this up a little bit where the wings kind of touch there. About like that. And I think that's going to be the perfect size. I don't want to be too close to my edges. I still want to be able to see some of this, and I also want to, you know, not like be right on the edges where I'm fraying this up a lot. going to these lines on here are kind of driving me crazy, so I'm going to flip it over the other way so I can't see my pencil lines. And I think that I do like that. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to say that this is my right, and this is the right, and this is the left, and this is the left, so that I just know where they go. Since they're the same, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to cut that out of muslin, and then I am going to somehow attach it down, whether it be with a blanket stitch, or whether it be, I'm thinking maybe a whip stitch. And I think that that might be a nice edging. I'll figure out what I'm going to do about the body after I finish the wings. And what I'm going to do is I am more than likely going to take some of these wings and I'm going to draw on a piece of paper and just draw a few of them. And then I'm just going to, you know, probably I'll do it on here. And I'll do like maybe 3 or 4 of these. And, you know, 3 or 4 of these, and I will do it both ways, left and right. Or you can also use like carbon paper to draw on it to get a mark on the back so you can flip it over. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go sit at my chair in the evenings and I'm going to sketch. You know, if I'm going to do a blanket stitch, you know, a blanket stitch looks kind of like this, you know, and then, so if I'm going to do that all the way around, I'm just going to kind of sketch that on there. You don't have to do this part. Because I don't know what I want to do with my wings, you know, I want to look at my stitches to see what different ones I have, and then, you know, look at the wings and think, how do I want to do this? You know, do I want to maybe, you know, do some kind of a, like, kind of a paisley look? You know what I mean? It's like, just kind of do some sketches and say, okay, maybe put like some cross stitches in here, maybe put some French braids in here, and draw it out and look at it and think, do I like the way that looks? And when I decide on how I want to do the pattern, then I will just, first I'm going to decide on my outside and get them stitched down and then stitch down the inside. And I'm going to use a pencil. You can also get pens that disappear after a while because of how long it takes me to stitch things. I'm going to just use a pencil and just kind of draw it on there. And if I have to go back in and erase it a little bit later, I'll do that. I'll just make sure that whatever eraser I'm going to use, that I try it on a piece of muslin fabric that is not what I have stitched down. If I stitch it down and I've got this pattern drawn on here, and when I stitch I get off my pencil mark, I'm not just going to go get my pencil and go in there and erase it, because what might happen is it might leave red on there. You know, it might leave black marks because there's, you know, whatever. So I always will try it on a different piece of muslin before I try and erase it on the piece I'm working on that I've already got stitched, and I just want to get rid of those lines. But, you know, if I'm kind of careful, it doesn't, and maybe I won't even put that many lines. I don't know how much I will draw on my muslin or not, or just get the pattern drawn out and then just kind of do it on here in my head. You know, I might just want to do stripes on there. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I might want to do a little flower here in each one or something. So I'm going to draw out a lot of different ones and then decide which one that I like. And I'm going to stitch my butterfly right to my backing. And then I'm going to embroider right through all of it. I don't think that that will really be too heavy. You know, because it's going to be a piece of muslin, and then we've got very thin cotton here and very thin cotton on the back. So I think I will be able to stitch on it just fine. We'll find out if I can or not, because I don't know a lot about stitching and, you know, hand sewing and that type of thing as to whether those 3 levels are really going to be hard or not. But I'm going to figure that out. And I suppose if it's too hard, I'm going to learn that when I go to stitch down my edging, because I'm going to do that first, obviously, so that my butterfly is completely attached before I start doing the decorative insides. So if I find that it's really too hard, then I can just take it out, and I will probably stitch it onto another piece of muslin so that I have a piece of fabric to hold while I'm embroidering my butterfly, and to get that butterfly exactly onto that larger piece of fabric to hold it steady, hold all my pieces together. You know, and then I would cut that out and put that on here by sewing it with a straight stitch, you know, just a stab stitch through and back up to attach it down like an applique. But I'm thinking that this will work just fine. I like the size of that. And again, I don't think I'm going to do anything down here. But I'll figure that out when the time comes. So I'm going to go away. I'm going to draw myself some patterns probably for a day or two. Then I'm going to cut out my muslin and transfer my favorite pattern onto there and attach it to my base and then start doing different stitches. So I'll be back next week to let you see how far I've gotten. You never know, I might only have a regular muslin butterfly stitched on there with no decoration whatsoever by the time I figure out what I want to do and then get it cut out and get it on there. But that's what I'm going to be working on this week. So thank you very much for stopping by. And if you have butterflies like this is a very thin chipboard, or not chipboard, cardstock. That it came from in a big package from the Dollar Tree. And so if you have butterflies like this that you want to trace around, you know, and if they're a little bit too big for your project, try tracing around them on a piece of paper and then just going inside your lines to make them just a little bit smaller, and see if you can make that work for you also. But, you know, butterfly wings are kind of like, they're kind of like a teardrop. You know, they're not that hard to do if you're only trying to do one. And at least that's the way that I find it, you know. And I used to sometimes fold my paper in half too, and I would cut it out and leave that center connected on the fold. But I really find that it's just easier to do it this way, because then if I don't like the shape, I'm not wasting all that paper. I'm only wasting this much paper. And if I go, yeah, I don't like the way that looks, I just cut out another one. So anyways, thank you very much for stopping by. If you want to make sure that you see all my videos, if you click the bell on the YouTube screen, it will tell you whenever I have a video. If you watch a commercial now and then, it does help me out. I really do appreciate it, you, and I'm going to stutter now at the very end. And if you're doing this, I hope that you're having a really good time. I really enjoy seeing the different ways that everybody comes out with their take on what they're doing with these. It's very fun to watch. So thank you again for stopping by. I really do appreciate you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.